Hey everybody, welcome back. Breakfast with Bob, Boston edition. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're presented and hosted by Highlands. Stop your cramp, not your race. And by Polar, chase your destiny. Our next guest, forget about the fact he's race director for Boston Marathon. Class of 1980 Ironman Triathlon World Championship. He had to go through the phone book to find someone to crew for him. Mr. Dave McGillivray. How you doing, D?
Good. Hey, you know my back pretty well, right? From the 1980 Ironman?
Oh, I never saw your back. It was. I didn't see anything. I didn't even see your shadow. I couldn't see anything.
I'm kidding.
You intimidated me.
Oh, yeah?
Because
my size?
No, remember we had to fill out those resumes.
Yeah. Oh.
And your athletic mind was, I was a PE teacher, period.
Yeah.
Yours was, I ran 3,000 miles from Medford, Oregon to Medford, Mass.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who is this crazy guy?
But that didn't mean I could swim a bike.
But what a great experience that was.
Yeah. 1980 it's the top, up there, the top five.
Don't you think? With all the, you've done so many different things, but we didn't know.
It was done the real way.
Right.
You know, it's
own support crew,
blood and guts, and
108 of us. We didn't know anything.
No finesse. Just get out there and bump and grind the whole way.
And you enjoyed it. Loved every second of it.
You lean your bike against a tree, go do the swim. Get on the bike.
Stop for lunch.
Get lost on the bike. Ride with all the traffic.
Yeah.
When we ran, we had to stop and get weighed in because they said if you lost more than 10% of your body weight, you were yanked from the event.
I gained 4 pounds.
You gained 4 pounds. Like, who is this clown?
It was the best. It was the best. So, 46th time in a row, you're going to be running here.
Yes.
And you've been race director for how many years?
Race director, I think, is 20-something, but involved 31. This is my 31st year.
So there was a point, obviously, where you would run the race a number of years in a row. We're now working for the race.
Yes.
And had to make a decision, well, wait a second, how do I keep my streak going?
Right.
And how did that happen where you said, okay, maybe one of the police officers can take me back out to the start line and I'll run it after everybody else?
So that's what actually happened, because when I was offered the job, I had a difficult decision making that call. What do I do? Do I run in it or run it?
Right.
And I said, well, I need the money. I'll take the job.
Right.
So I took the job, not knowing, is this streak over? And then just as I saw everyone crossing the finish line and high-fiving people, I said, hey, something's missing here. So that's when I tapped the state police trooper on the shoulder and I said, officer, you drive me out to the start. And he says, why, did you forget something? I said, yeah, I forgot to run. So he drove me back out. 8 o'clock at night I started, finished a little after 11, and the tradition continues.
And now, aren't you raising money for MR8 from that?
Yeah, so for the last 5 years since the tragedy, I've been raising money for the Martin Richard Foundation, and I did the World Marathon Challenge this year and raised money on that, and last night presented a check to Bill and Denise Richard and Jane and Henry for the money that I helped raise for MR8 on the World Marathon Challenge, and it was a check for $100,000.
How cool is that?
That's really cool.
And you ran 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days. As a race director, you're probably going, okay, I want to sit back and see how they do this.
Yeah, obviously from a physiological perspective, it was challenging, but logistically to pull that off, Richard Donovan, who has the company that creates that, did it, and logistically that was as much a challenge as running in it.
Absolutely.
So pretty mind-boggling.
So this is the 5th anniversary of the bombing, and that changed this event from being a running event to a international spectacle and to something that the whole world microscope was on this event leading into 2014. How difficult was that challenge to pull off this event under the scrutiny of the entire world?
Well, it was like starting all over again.
Yeah.
Because first of all, it went in 3 stages. First was sort of the recovery and remembering those who were profoundly impacted, and that took 3 months, just to kind of just prioritize what's important, and that was taking care of those, again, who were affected. And then, the overwhelming interest in coming to Boston.
Right.
So to try to conceptualize and then crystallize, what would this be? What do we do? And, thousands and thousands of people wanted to come to pay tribute and to remember and to stand strong and to persevere. And so we had to decide, well, if we're going to increase the field size, by how much, and can we actually handle that? So we increased the field size by 9,000. Then you add on to that that extra layer of security, and we didn't know until less than 6 months out what this thing was going to be.
Sure.
So we didn't have a lot of time to plan for it, because normally right after a race, you're planning the next one. We didn't stop planning 2014 until 6 months before it.
Wow.
With all those added challenges of security and more people and more interest, and so it was definitely epic. I mean, to have Meb win, the end result of that was just overwhelming, and I've always said since then that was the most memorable and meaningful marathon of all times.
No question about it. Just the fact that Meb made the move early. A lot of people thought he was just getting a little camera time. All right, oldest guy in the field. There was no way this guy is going to. His PR was on the second page, right? All those guys. When you were out there, when you see Meb make a move, what were you thinking?
Well, I had dinner with him 2 nights before, and as we were walking back to the hotel, I asked him, I said, if you don't mind, can you tell me what your strategy is? And he told me, and as I was riding along on the scooter, right near the lead pack, obviously I had a front row seat and I was seeing everything going on, and I said, son of a gun, the guy's, playing this out exactly the way he had planned.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, as the gap was narrowing and narrowing from a minute plus to 8 seconds, even I thought, well, maybe this wasn't meant to be, and that son of a gun just went into an extra gear. He dug deep, and that's why it's not just physical, it's emotional.
Right.
A lot of people say, oh, running a marathon is 90% mental. I don't think it's 90% mental. I think it's very physical. You got to work and train and be in shape.
Absolutely.
But I think that emotional, drive can really make a huge difference, and I think that's what made the difference for him. He had the names of the 4 victims on his bib, and he had a mission, and that was he was going to take this come hell or high water, and when he made that turn onto Hereford, you knew he had it then, and it was just so exciting to see.
And watching him in between, like the last part of this race, there's a lot of corners and a lot of turns. And you could see him accelerate because he wanted to be out of sight, out of mind when the guys who were chasing came around the turn, like, oh, he's too far away. He wanted them to give up.
That's what a strategist does, and that's how you have to run. You make that turn, they can't see you, you put the hammer down, you gap it more, they make the turn, they get discouraged, they give up, kind of concept. And that's what he did on those last few turns.
Having him win here, have an American win, is over 30 years since an American won here. That particular day was so impactful. And just talking to Meb yesterday about that, it's something that he still remembers every second of it vividly. You too?
Oh yeah. I mean, like I said, I was probably the only person to see him every step of the way from the start to the very last step as he crossed the finish line. And again, I've seen a lot.
Yes,
in this sport. I've been the lead vehicle of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of races, but that effort and that end result by far was, the highlight of what I've seen in any road race or triathlon in my entire career.
So now that you're going to be running your 46th, it used to be just you out there by yourself and 1 or 2 people. Now it seems like you got a little group running with you.
Contingent. Yeah, I have 3 or 4 guys that are good friends that that come out with me and run the whole way, and I like it. It's the calm after the storm, sort of. Although it looks like the weather later on in the day on Monday is going to be a lot worse than it is.
Is it really?
In the morning. So that happened in 2015 too.
Yes, it did. I remember being out there when you finished in the rain.
Yeah. So the conditions aren't going to be obviously ideal, but it is what it is, and we'll make the best of it. And it's good to have a couple of other people to run with and just chat with and keep my mind off of maybe what I'm doing, and it helps get through the miles.
You're one of those guys who has been around not just running, but triathlon for years and years and years. And there's, back in the day, the runners didn't do any of this other stuff. They didn't do the swim and the bike. And the triathletes weren't really doing running events.
Right.
But there's been a sort of a melding, and people are doing everything. You've seen that with your business and with Boston?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it at maybe the 2nd tier or 3rd tier level. I still haven't seen it at the top.
The elite guys.
The elite guys.
Yeah.
You don't see too many people like a Frank Shorter or Bill Rogers
go and do triathlons.
But they're chipping away at it, kind of a thing. And again, our sport, it's so funny. Years ago, when I started my business, people said, you can't earn a living putting on road races. And I said, well, I'm not putting on road races. That's where you're wrong. Well, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm putting on events to help raise the level of self-esteem and self-confidence of tens of thousands of people in America. And I said, sooner or later, people are going to get that, and they're going to get off the couch, and the walls of intimidation are going to crumble, and they're going to believe in themselves, and they're going to want to do this so that when they cross the finish line and get the medal, they're going to go home feeling good about themselves. And that's the very foundation by which we accomplish anything in our life, is to feel good about ourselves. And triathlon does it, running does it, and that's why this sport and this industry has taken off.
Yeah, because back in the day, it was just a few geeks in swimsuits running through the streets. And now it's millions and millions of people. How many events now have you put on?
Probably 1,100.
1,100 events.
Yeah.
And so how many thousands of people through your finish lines?
Well, obviously, probably millions now, you know, when it's all said and done. But, I again, back then it was all about competition.
Yes,
and now it's all about participation.
Yeah.
It's getting in the game and being a participant versus being a spectator. And so there's a lot of benefits from it, you know, every way, which way you look at it. I mean, just philanthropy-wise, the amount of money being raised in our industry, there's no other sporting industry that's quite like that.
No.
You know, just in the Boston Marathon alone, $35 million is going to be raised in Monday's, because of Monday's race.
How cool
That's
is
staggering.
that? It is staggering.
It's staggering.
Love that. Big D, as always, I love chatting with you.
Thank you.
You are the very best. We'll have to. Are you going to come back? This is a 40th anniversary Ironman. You should be running there.
I know. I got to think about that one.
So, and then the other thing is, we've got, I don't know how many people are actually here, but I think it was like 140 people qualified in Kona to come run this marathon.
So you and I and Mike Riley set that all up years and years ago, saying, I wonder how many people are qualifying for Boston at Ironman. And
yes.
We found out it's well over 100, and just thinking about that is just off the charts when you think about they just did a 2.4 and then they did 112. Now they're running a marathon in 80
the heat of the day.
Heat,
yep.
And they're banging out a qualifier for Boston. It's like, are they not the fittest athletes on the planet or what?
What I always love is when people are here and they've qualified. It's like, where'd you qualify? Oh, I qualified in New York. Oh, I qualified in Chicago. Where'd you qualify? I swam 2.4. I rode 112. Then I ran the marathon at heat of the day, and I qualified for Boston. Should have a special M.dot on the race number. I love that. Dave McGillivray has been our guest. He's got a pretty busy 48 hours in front of him. I appreciate you taking a few minutes and hanging with us.
It's always great.
Dave McGillivray, as always. Again, Breakfast with Bob, Boston edition, presented, hosted by Highland. Stop your cramp, not your race. And by Polar, chase your destiny. That's a wrap for day 2. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. See ya.